Um,
Hello.
Hello, Miss Lappin.
Hey guys.
hey, how you doing?
Good
Welcome.
morning, all.
How you doing, sir?
Wonderful.
Hey Sal, welcome. Let's all welcome our new member Sal to the group.
Oh, there
And
you go.
an interesting thing about Sal that I really liked, and you guys probably a lot of you have met Commander Hung Kao when we were at Annapolis, but Sal was a classmate of Hung Kao's at the academy, the Naval Academy, and he trained with my good friend John Kritsos at the academy. John Kritsos is a lawyer, but he was a Kiwon Kim black belt, you know, from Mitchell Barbro and Mike Warren and all those guys, their school. And he's was a student of John's doing the Taekwondo club there when he was going to the academy. So he's got a long history there. So welcome to the group there, Sal.
Yes, thank you.
Now, Smith, do I actually know John or do I know of John?
Oh yeah, you know John.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, you met him. You met him in New York and a bunch of the places.
Oh, at least in Kiwon Kim's tournament where you introduced me as a past grand champion.
Well, I tell you, that was at the Hall of Fame, and John was at the Hall of Fame. He was inducted there at the Taekwondo Hall of Fame. That's probably where you met him. But
Who is it? The famous New Yorker. He dabbled with movies. He dabbled with a couple other things. Nice guy, but one of the other longtime New Yorkers was sitting next to me. He goes, "I don't remember you winning the grand championship." You know, actually, I've never actually been to this tournament before. So,
well,
don't worry, your memory, you know, it's not that, you know, it's not that your memory shot.
Kritsos, you would know because of Broussard, John Broussard.
Yeah.
He was he trained John, and Kritsos was Broussard's one of his instructors, you know, back in the early days. But Kritsos won Henry Cho's several years, you know, and his All-American tournament. So, you know, he was right up there with the caliber of Mike Warren and Mitchell Barbro and those guys.
I keep having those moments of, like when we were at Toby's office, I said about somebody, I forget who it was. I said, I don't think I've ever met him. He goes, well, he was at your boot camp 3 times. I said, oh, I guess, oh, I know who it was. It was the new president of whatever his title is of ESC, the guy they recruited from Australia. And I've had those moments about 10 times recently. You know, when I was actually in the school every day, I had probably 1,200 students' names and parents' names and everything. It was doing the belt test every month is where I could get face to name by about 2 cycles. And now I'm not doing that anymore. I Chase's friends' parents, I know them by, oh, that's Seamus's dad. You know?
Yeah. It's not what their name is. It's so-and-so's dad or so-and-so's
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah. Anyway, anybody have anything pressing that you need to work on before we get into our pre-planned itinerary?
Well, if I may start, sir, may I start?
Of
Yes,
course.
Right ahead.
Yes, so I'm trying to get number one of your one of 10 things done. And number one was the pricing plan.
Yes.
And or I was sort of, and I've been to just the week one part of the quick start. But I guess my first question is, I talked with Grandmaster Jeff Smith, and he said start off with 500 and as a down payment, and then if you do it today for 250, and then start off with 297, and if you join today, it's 247. What I guess what do you give for the 250 as a down payment, if any?
Well, let me give you a heads up. You know, if you were in the ring, Jeff Smith is the baddest ass person on the planet. At least he was in his prime, and I think
Many moons.
you may be like Mike Tyson and doing a comeback at 75.
Right.
I don't know. But you know, when it comes to pricing, you know, I'm a lot more aggressive than he is. But
I warned Sal already. You're going to say grow a pair and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, but
and I love all of that.
yeah, here's the
I think I got big brass balls.
good. You know, every now and then we have to send those, you know, whatever meditation ball to somebody or something. But here's the first part of the answer is I could be asking them for 5,000 initially to enroll, and it doesn't have to come with anything as like a package, rationale. There really doesn't have to be a rationale. Okay, so if I were doing, you know, Ms. Jones, normally it's 800 to get started. You know, since you came in from blank, we're gonna we will do a $300 discount if you go ahead and finalize your enrollment today. So it's just 500 initially, and then the first month. I don't have to say the 500 covers this, and this. And in fact, I would say it the opposite. When I start trying to rationalize, and I see people who do presentation books and they start, you know, they put the uniform and equipment package and everything and what the price is, and that actually confuses the issue. And you're more at danger of confusing a prospect in the way through the enrollment than you are in a renewal. But at every stage, what you know is as soon as you confuse somebody, they don't do anything. Right? So you always want to keep it really simple and straightforward. So if you took what Master Smith was suggesting, you know, it's normally 500 to register. You know, we do a $200 discount, so it's just 300 now, and then the first month, right? Was that what you were saying, Master Smith?
I said half off, but you know, either or.
Yeah. So 250, you know, give you 250 discount now, so it's just 250 in the first month. You know, and that works fine. I mean, it's $497. But my pet peeve, and I keep telling people over and over and over again, and I keep hearing people come up with it again, is I don't like it to be, you know, it's normally 800 and we give you a $303 discount, so it's just $497 and the first month, which is $247. I don't like it to be two numbers that, you know, neither one are round and they can't add it in their head. Make sense? So if I ever have a prospect feel like they need to get the calculator out in the middle of a conversation, I also confuse and lose them. So if I'm going to do that presentation, it would be, as you know, normally a round number. We're going to give you a round number discount. So it's just that plus it's then the monthly tuition. And so if it's going to be 247, it's going to be 247 plus 300, or 247 plus 250 works, right? Wouldn't work. It was 247 plus 247, that because that's just too many steps of complication. Does that make
Okay.
sense, Sal? And,
Yes, sir.
you know, a lot of people will say, well, what if they say, what's that for? Well, it's true that some people say, what's that for? And the answer is simple. Well, that's just to get Billy started in the program. And as I said, we're going to do a $250 discount. So I mean, we go ahead and get the program finalized today. But that's what it's for, is to get enrolled, right?
All right, and then, so what do you guys generally give them? You give them a uniform, a T-shirt, and that's it?
Well, here's what my rule of thumb is we're going to enroll them for a year, and then we're going to renew them in the first 2 to 4 months to train to black belt and beyond. And between the time of me enrolling them and me renewing them, I don't want to go back and ask them for money again. Okay. So if I want them to wear hand pads in class, for instance, or if I want them to wear foot pads or whatever it might be, I'm just going to bundle all that in, right? If there's a book I want them to do, like we do the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, and the book, Psychology of Winning, I'm going to give that to them, right? So, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to like try to itemize it all and give them a big list and make that like a big deal. I'm just going to, when I enroll, and here are the things that you're going to need in your white belt and gold belt classes. You know, that's all included. Does that make sense, Sal?
Yeah, so you basically, you can give them like whatever they need, the book, the sparring gear, the bags, whatever
Anything.
yeah.
And we don't always in the basic class do sparring. We try to kind of put that in the black belt program. In the basic, you're doing the blocks and the counters. You can do some prearranged stuff, but you're not doing partner stuff like that, other than grabbing the wrist or the neck, even though during the COVID, we've even limited that kind of contact.
Well, and without going too far down that path, like for us, when they renew, so they renew to train the black belt and beyond, that's when they're going to need like everything: headgear, rib guard, hand pads, foot pads, you know, everything. So what we do is we have just a big package, and when they renew, we just give it all to them, right? But we don't like try to sell any of that stuff in the process. It's also sort of my pet peeve about pro shops and Black Friday sales and all that kind of stuff. You know, I could do more net profit in one renewal than, you know, 3 days of a Black Friday sale with $20,000 in inventory and pumping it up forever. So, you know, I mean,
and it's easier and doesn't cost you as much headache or pain.
Exactly. Now, and that's not to say, you know, it'd be nice to have everybody have a, you know, a Wave Master or a Bob bag at home and all that kind of stuff, especially right now. But yeah, and again, not to make it complicated, but when you do the initial enrollment, I like to give them anything that they're going to need in class until you've renewed them. And then when they renewed them, there can be another package of stuff you give them. What I don't want to do is have it be, you know, what we used to do, and you take a lot of schools are a lot worse than this, but you enroll, and then like in 2 weeks, you need your hand pads, your mouthpiece, and Ms. Jones, the hand pads are $32 and the mouthpiece is $3. And then Joey lost his mouthpiece, and that'll be $3. And then, by the way, you need this school patch, and it's X amount. And then there's a gold belt test that's coming up, and it's X amount, and you pay for that separately. See, what happens is you like ding them and ding them and ding them and ding them and ding them, and then you're asking them to commit to black belt. And you know, the renewal might be a $20,000 deal. Why do I care about, you know, getting $112 from them in addition to what they've done otherwise, right? And if I need to justify it for myself, it might be in the first 4 months, they normally would give me $200. So I add the $200 to the initial tuition. So they're giving me $500 for the first month. That covers everything. I'm not going to worry about it. Is this making sense, Sal?
Yes.
And then without going too deep in it, because we don't like to spend a lot of time on quick start and renewals, But our pricing model is this, is you take what they are doing on the monthly on a trial enrollment, and then we're going to create a leadership program that's double that of price or more. And then a fallback position in between, let's say it's black belt, and that's going to be a 50% bump, maybe a little less, right? So 247, half of 247 is 125. So, you know, what's that, 375 or maybe 347 is what black belt would be. 247 double is a tick under 500. So it could be 497 or it could be 547, but it's going to be double or more. And then it's going to be something that's in between. So that's kind of the pricing model. But then the other side of it is, again, totally eliminating nickel and diming to death. The story I've told 1,000 times, but you know, years and years ago, when I was working with Nick Kokinas and you know the EFC board of directors, we used to go to Fort Lauderdale a lot. Nick had a condo on A1A at the Intercoastal, or Sunrise in the Intercoastal, and we used to go down there a lot. And I was doing an MBA at the time, and I decided I was going to go down to, I assume it's still there, the Harbor Beach Marriott, which is right on the beach. It's got this beautiful Hawaiian motif. It's a beautiful hotel. It's, you know, one of the more upscale Marriotts. And this is forever ago, but it was $550 a night, I think, beachfront room. Probably nowadays is $1,200. I don't know. But I remember there. And I had friends down there one thing or another, but mostly I was going to go down and just hang out at the pool and study and, you know, one thing or another. And it was hot enough that usually I ended up in a movie by noon rather than at the pool, but that's another story. But the point of the story is I remember, you know, I'm paying $550 a night 30 years ago or 20, you know, some years ago. And I pull up and it was a choice of $30 a night to go park my car over there, or like $40 a night for valet parking, right? And then I went in and they had a little safe in the room, and that was $10 a night. And then every time you made a phone call, and this is kind of pre, you know, I had the big, you know, the Wall Street brick phone back then. But, you know, every time you touched the phone, it was 75 cents. And I kept kind of, you know, going through this in my head of, well, okay, I'm paying $550 a night, but every time I turn around, they're dinging me for another $1 or $5 or $20. And the straw that broke the camel's back of me saying, screw this, I'm never coming back to this hotel again, was I went out to the pool and they served my iced tea. I don't drink liquor much or at all, but they gave me these little cups like this size. And every time they refilled my iced tea, they dinged me $3. So by the time I was done at the pool, they had charged me $12 for 4 little iced teas like this, right? And that was it didn't matter. They could have charged me $700 a night for the room. I wouldn't have batted an eye. But when they gave me the bill for $12 for 3 iced tea refills, that was the straw that broke the camel's back that I went, screw this, I'm not doing this again. You hear what I'm saying? And so when I look at it, that's the way it feels to me like we treat a lot of our students. You know, you enrolled and you think that's it, but now there's the gold belt test and there's a fee for that. And then there's the patch for the uniform. There's a fee for that. Using Fort Lauderdale as an example, the worst example I ever saw was on Commercial Boulevard. I forget the name of the school, I would tell you, but it was a school that several of us went there because they were, in fact, Nick's kid was, his grandson was a student there at the time. So we're there watching class. And I remember all of a sudden, all the kids come running out in the lobby like this with their hands out. And the moms are, you know, mostly moms are going through their purse, looking for dollar bills. You know, one mom gives her kid a $10 bill. Another one gives them, you know, 4 quarters. 2 of them go up to the front desk asking if they can get change or if they can put it on their credit card. And 2 kids are over in the corner of the room sobbing. And turns out what it was is the owner very proudly took us in the back room and he had a table saw and he proudly described part of his business model was he went to lumber store and he got wood at this much a foot, and he cut it down and he sold it for this much a foot, and every month he made $2,000 selling boards because it was board breaking day, and it was $1 a board or something like that. And so the kids could break as many boards as they wanted as long as it was $1 a board. Well, I looked at that and went, what a disaster. I don't care about the $2,000. What I care about is the 2 kids over there crying in the corner because mom wasn't there, and the 3 moms I saw with a irritated look on their face that they're having to dig through and go up to the desk and ask them if they can put the 3 or a board on their credit card. See, it was that type of nickel and diming that is pretty pervasive in our industry, right? You use the example a lot, Master Smith, but Steve Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he uses an example of building a relationship, and he talks about deposits and withdrawals in the emotional bank account, right? So every time you do something without being asked, every time you give somebody a compliment, those are deposits, right? You forgot their birthday, you forgot the anniversary, you forgot, you screwed up something, that's a withdrawal. And I think it's a good way of thinking about that. Every time a withdrawal is when you're like, taking a screwdriver and like poking them, asking them to pay another $10 that they weren't expecting, right? And the deposits they get all kinds of stuff without expecting it, right? It's like the package. Well, if I just itemized it all and said you're paying $400 because this comes up to $352 and the other $48 is this, there's nothing special about it. But, if I enroll you and then I say, oh, by the way, you get this book and you get this book and you get this thing and you get this thing and you get this thing, that's all the stuff you're going to need between now and, that's all the stuff you're going to need for your beginner classes. Well, all the extra stuff is like really cool, right? It's like offers. I love throwing in uniforms. Anybody who's seen me actually the day-to-day in a school, I give those things away like they're candy on Halloween. Well, what the hell? It cost me $10, right? And any kid that I can get anywhere near taking an intro class is going to be in uniform. So's mom, so's dad, so's the grandfather, in the walker, because once I can get that sense of ownership, but also there's reciprocity. It's one of those things that all of a sudden I'm gifting them and I'm gifting them and I'm gifting them. It's the logic for if you go into a store, when they walk up and offer you the free waters or whatever, that's the same thing. I mean, it's building reciprocity, is making those deposits. I took my BMW X5 into the dealership yesterday to get just a basic, oil change and crap. But sure enough, they had, lady walking around and they were a little backed up and she's walking around handing out free waters and one thing or another. And they have now like a full coffee shop where everything is free. So you go in and, if I want a caramel macchiato or I want an iced tea or whatever, it's just all free. Well, why are they doing that? Well, the car sitting behind the shop is a, 110,000, M8. And the service isn't cheap either. They can give away a whole bunch of stuff to build rapport. And in the end, it's not much of an expense. And the benefit of having that relationship is much higher. In this case, they still pissed me off because I had to be there for 30 minutes and, I wanted to be in and out in 5 minutes, but that's aside from the point. Sal, is this all helping?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Do you have any questions about presenting those price points?
Well, we haven't looked at that part yet.
Okay.
How do you present it? And we printed out those benefit sheets yet, but we actually we're going to go look at them today. So yeah, so we haven't actually done all of that yet. I wanted to get the pricing thing down, and then we're going to role play and all that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, if you want to go over it, and we have a little bit of time, as if I'm the new guy and you're signing me up to your school.
It was in part on my agenda anyway, is to spend a little bit of time on the enrollment process. And the in raising your price point, the first thing you've got, especially if you're not doing it yourself, right? But the first thing you've got to recognize is the next new person coming in the door has no history, track record. They don't know what you've been doing, any of that kind of stuff. But your staff almost always makes the mistake of, in cognitive behavioral therapy, they call it mind reading, of mind reading the prospect and coming up with what they're going to be thinking, which is almost always erroneous, right? So they come up with, well, they're going to be thinking, why did you guys raise the prices so much? Well, they're not going. We know they're not going to be thinking that because they don't know what the prices used to be. Short of they sat down with Mrs. Jones, whose son is been with you for for a year, and ask, can you show me the contract? Can you show me the price sheet? And that happens 1 out of 100 referrals, right? But very rarely. But the other thing they mind read is they take their emotional reaction to the pricing based on their historical relationship with what they paid, not the value they received, but based upon their historical perception of what they paid. And then they say, oh, I couldn't afford that. And this is all subconscious. They conclude, well, I wouldn't be able to afford that, or I would not have been able to afford that. Therefore, they're not going to be able to afford that, right? So they prejudge ahead of time the way the other person's going to think about things. And it's just amazing that they do that. I've had staff members who, for goodness sake, they were 7 when their parents enrolled them, and they go through this. I wouldn't be able to afford that. It's like, well, wait a minute, your parents paid for this. And by the way, your parents, inflation adjusted dollars paid, this much or more. It's not that, when you were a 7-year-old, you wouldn't have been able to afford it. Your parents afforded it just fine, right? But they have all those kinds of things, right? So you've got to be careful anytime you make a jump, especially if it's significant, that they're not locked into all of that kind of crap going on, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the prospect that pushes back most of the time. It's going to be the staff member who subliminally butchers the deal. Same thing on the initial tuition. They'll go, well, what am I giving them for that?
Yes.
We're
So
giving-
right now,
Yeah, go ahead.
just so you know, sir, what we typically do on any of these Facebook leads and any of these people who come in is we get them to do this introductory sort of quick start offer. It's $99 for 8 karate sessions. And it's just a way for you to see how you guys like it. So that's what we've been doing lately since as of basically May. And then the thought is within 1 to 4 karate class, they can join if they're enjoying the classes, and they could use that $100 towards their initial tuition. So you could tell me if you want me to stop that, I could stop that right away. Or still do that and just say, okay, what do you want me to do differently with that? Because that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
You come in, you do a trial deal for $99, and then after 1 or 2 classes, you could use that towards your down payment. In this case, $500 now, minus $100, and then you can do that. So, what's an easy transition for my staff to do that? Because that's what we've been doing.
Well, let's start with the logic, right? So let's start where you and Master Smith work. It's normally $500 to register. If you go ahead and finalize your enrollment today, we're going to give you a $250 discount. The language for that offer is normally $500 to register. Since you've already done the $99 offer, we're actually going to give you a $250 discount for that. If you go ahead and finalize your enrollment today.
Okay.
Okay. And you can add if it makes you feel more comfortable, and you'll still get the month of lessons or the 8 lessons, included. Right.
Okay. So how would you include that? So you would say you still have the 8 karate lessons you're starting today. So your first yeah, the 250 plus the 247 starts, basically you're saying the 8 karate classes is
So
the first month, and
let
then
me
next month.
explain it. Let me, yeah,
Yeah.
let me explain it. Okay.
Yeah.
So any offer you do, and this is one of, you'll hear Master Moody and Master Smith and I say this about 10,000 times over the next year. In essence, it doesn't matter what offer you do. Your enrollment process and language is always the same, right? So
Mhm.
let's say I have a, which was big, popular at a time for a while, because me or Steve LaValle started, I don't remember which, probably me. And then Bill Clark was doing it, one thing or another. But the 30-day VIP. Lloyd Irving teaches something like that to all the BJJ guys he has worked with, and they've a religion that it has to be an online offer, has to be blank, which is horseshit. But here's the deal: any offer you do, it could be a 2-month offer, it could be a 2-month Groupon offer, a 1-month Groupon offer, an 8-lesson offer, a 16-lesson offer, a 2-lesson offer, a 2-week offer. It could be free or paid, doesn't matter. Every offer you do, you have exactly the same enrollment process, right? And so, and with your staff, you've got to, the biggest thing to disabuse them of is they paid for 8 lessons, they take 8 lessons. They paid for 2 months, they take 2 months before we talk to them again, right? So you always want to have, I always prefer for a kid, we're going to do intro 1, intro 2, enroll, following intro 2, which if you're stuck in doing virtual lessons, which some of you are rolled back to it, in San Diego, you may be rolled back to it here soon. But if you're stuck in doing virtual lessons, it becomes private intro, small group, beginner lesson intro, private third intro, which is really the enrollment conference, right? But it's always the same, right? So then the value of is normally $800 to register. Since you came in from the 2-month $129 deal, since you came in from the 8-lesson $99 offer, what we do if we want to go ahead and finalize your normal enrollment now is we give you a $400 discount for having paid that already. You see what I'm saying? So it's, we're taking that
Yes.
away, but we're giving you an added benefit. And you'll still get the 8 lessons included. Now, in practical terms, the 8 lessons or 1 month or 2 months, if you do that, we just add it to the end of the program, right? So we write it up as a 12-month enrollment, but we give them a 14-month expiration or a 13-month expiration on it, okay? But then what we would do is normally 800, it's 400. We do the 400 plus the first month now, and then we would start the 247 on the first of next month. Okay. Now what happens occasionally is, well,
Wait, say that again. Sorry, sir. Say that again. So
No
you
problem.
do your 250,
yeah, it's 250 plus 247, right?
right?
Um,
But you get that today.
Yes, I keep using a bigger number because I'm just trying
Yeah.
to imbue you with,
Right.
we'll grow a pair. But okay, so we do the 250 plus the 247 now. And then we would, if I enroll them today, we're going to start the 247 a month, January 1st. Okay. If I enrolled them a week, if I enrolled them Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I'm still setting the 247 to start December 1st. Now, so I'm just always scheduling the first monthly tuition at the first of the next month that's coming up, right? We're not prorating anything. We're not worrying about it's 2 weeks, it's 4 weeks, it's 6. It's just beginning of the next month. And what'll happen sometimes is they'll say, oh, that's in 2 weeks. I'm not sure we can do that too. Oh, okay, no problem. Why don't we just start the 1st of January? Oh, can you do that? Sure. Right? No big deal. What will happen as you get the initial tuition higher, Master Smith likes to say down payment. I don't like to say down payment, but as you get that initial tuition higher, is you'll get some people who say, well, I didn't know we were going to have to pay that today. Oh, okay. Will that work for the budget? notice I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm, it's all nonchalant, not getting into any kind of debate or anything. Will that work for the budget? No, not really. I mean, I don't get paid until the 20th, or I don't get paid. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, what will work today? Well, I could do the month, I was kind of expecting that. I just can't. Okay. Well, why don't we do the 247 now and go ahead? Okay, you can do that? Sure. And so what I'll do in closing is I'll get the credit card or the check or whatever, use this credit card, get the credit card. Why don't you go ahead and, did you want to do that? Visa, MasterCard, how'd you want to do that? Oh, I can give you a Visa. Okay. I'll go run the Visa, come back, be filling out the, get them to fill out the paperwork. And then my next question is going to be, when would work for the other 250? Oh, I can do that next week. Oh, okay, great. No problem. Can I do that on the 1st? Sure. And then next thing I'm going to say is I also have the 247 starting on the 1st. Is that going to work? Oh no, I can't do both. It's okay, no problem. Then I'll push the 247 another month, right? So I'm just not going to get into a debate. I'm just going to make the assumption the closest possible date and then push it if it needs to be. Is that all making sense, Sal?
Yeah, and you always just generally bill them on the 1st is what you're saying, not on that day?
Yeah, this is a management issue.
Yeah.
But I don't like having, again, whether it was 30 years ago using a billing company or today using, a software package, I don't like having the billing coming in on the 1st, the 5th, the 10th, the 15th, spread all over the place. It becomes a mess. What I like is everything hits on the 1st or it hits on the 25th. But if I have everything on the 1st, then I know on the 5th, I need to go through and look what didn't clear, what needs to be cleaned up. I have maybe from every month, the 5th to the 10th is my time to fix everything, right? So if it's just once a month, and by the way, this is true of payroll, it's true of paying any and every bill. I don't want the electric bill to be due on the 17th and the cell phone bill to be due on the 22nd and the rent's due on the 1st. And I do a payroll on rolling every 2 weeks, or I do payroll on the 1st and 15th. I'll just have everything all the billing hits on the 1st and I pay everything on the 1st, period. So next time I'm going to look at payables is going to be a month, and I have a short window when I need to look at billing and clean it up. And other than that, I don't have to worry about it. Go ahead, ask Moody.
Yeah, you might want to mention sometimes when you're talking to the new student or the parent, they might say something about, well, I get paid on X, and maybe how to respond to that. And then that's where you can move the payment to accommodate whatever they're doing. So there might be some flexibility there.
Yeah. Every now and then you're going to have, I really can't do it on the 1st, or, my ex is going to have to be paying their share on this date, or, you can accommodate all those things, right?
Well, and
Yes.
just as a side thing, the funny part about that is if somebody says, let's say it's the 15th and they want it, you say, well, okay, well, the next payment will be on the 1st, because we'll take the down on the 1st month now. And they say the next payment is the 1st. We say, well, how about, they say, well, I get paid on this date. Can I have the payment be on the 25th? Let's say I'll just make the payment the next 25th, meaning 10 days from now, not the 25th the next month. And I'll suggest that very frequently they'll say yes. Because they just want it to be the 25th. You hear what I'm saying? I got the money a whole month earlier than I would have gotten. But sometimes the staff's tendency is to move the money out a whole nother month, if that's making sense to you. If they say it's a certain date, okay, but I'll do it this date. And just make it the soonest possible date. Make that the first suggestion. Sorry to interrupt, but
No. And if they don't like it, then okay, no problem. Let's go.
Yeah,
I'll move it
exactly.
out the next month. But the management principle is, I like to have anything that I could do once a year, I would do once a year. Anything that I can do once a month, I do once a month. Anything that I can do automatic and I don't have to pay attention to it, I'll do that. For me, I mean, pretty much every bill that I have just gets paid automatically. Set up the bank account. It all goes out one thing or another. I can look at it once a month and make sure it all happened right. But if you have all the bills get paid once a month and all the money comes in once a month, I only have to look at bills for like one day a month and pay attention to it. And I don't have to look at billing a day or two a month to clean up whatever, bad credit cards or they moved or stuff like that. But then I don't have stuff like hitting, twice or three times a week. And then I'm paying attention to it. Just all of that kind of stuff. Like payroll. I remember for years, we did payroll on 1st and 15th. It was always a pain in the ass. And then I just shifted everybody to the 1st. It's like everybody gets paid on the 1st. The money comes in on the 1st. The bills get paid on the 1st. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff for another month. Well, a couple of people whined for about 2 days, and I loaned them a week to, get them over. And then after that, it was fine. No big deal.
That's a really good point, Jan. I texted you on this, Jan, but we talked this morning about systems. That's how to build system, is do what Master Oliver just said. That's magical what he just said, everybody. Just limit stuff to as minimally frequent as possible. It's also called batching.
Yeah.
Minimally frequent as possible. Don't check your email every 2 seconds.
No. Well, there's a book I read years ago now, I guess, Tim Ferriss, called The 4-Hour Work Week.
4-Hour Work Week's a great example. Yes, sir.
And it's a book, if you haven't read it, what I would say about it is about 2/3 of it is irrelevant to us to the point of being silly. And he has some great analogies of me and my friend always pictured the bald fat man in the BMW convertible and this and that. But his basic premise was Ferriss was running an online nutrition company, and selling vitamins, one thing or another, kind of like I guess what Mark Glazer does. And he found himself working 100 hours a week, killing himself on this stuff, and constantly trying to be responsive to everything, one thing or another. And he talks about the first thing he did is he figured out within his little organization structure what things he needed specifically to deal with and how to route it to other people or organizations without ever coming onto his plate whenever possible, right? So things like an email autoresponder, if you need this, talk to this person. If you need this, talk to this person. If you need this, here's where you go. So he didn't have to get in the middle of it. And the other example he used is he put an autoresponder in his email that said, I check my email every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. And what it did is it got people out of the idea of I emailed you 22 minutes ago and you haven't responded yet, which is one of the biggest time killers, is constantly being responsive. I mean, nowadays people are trying to respond to tweets and Facebook Messenger and emails. And, if you have any device that dings at you, I mean, the first thing Lee Motier and I were talking about this, she got an Apple Watch and a new iPhone. And I was walking her through, I said, turn off every notification in the Apple Watch. She goes, what do you mean? Well, it's going to ding every time you get an email. It's going to ding every time you get a text. It's going to ding every time somebody posts something on Facebook. Turn it all off, right? But that's one of those principles, is you want to always be proactive, not reactive, and to set everything up in batches, and also get it off your plate if it's humanly possible for it to get off your plate. But it is a book that's interesting to read. He talks a lot about outsourcing, and he talks a lot about just trimming your life down. Now, he's not really talking about how to work 4 hours a week. The way they came up with that, and it's smart. The way they came up with that title is they did a whole bunch of online surveys and pay-per-click. So they bought a bunch of pay-per-click ads and they used different headlines. And the one that won was 4-Hour Work Week. So that became the title of the book, which really doesn't have anything to do with, what he's teaching. We laughed a lot when the book came out, said, well, here's Ferriss on 92 different podcasts, 2 different TV shows, and 92 emails and everything else. The guy's working 100 hours a week to promote the book called The 4-Hour Work Week. Yeah, that's that's what he's doing. It's like when you go to a live conference and you have 4 internet guys talking about how you can set up an automated website and never have to talk to anybody, never have to do any manual labor. And in the meantime, they got an airplane and flew from Austin to, to Toronto to talk in front of people to pitch their internet thing. You've always got to pay attention to what people do, not what they say.
Some of the concepts that are really good though, that you're talking about, especially in terms of batching work.
Yeah.
And so frequently we talk to a lot of school owners and they're doing their accounting every single week or multiple times a week, paying bills that frequently. Some of you guys on the call are doing this right now. That's ridiculous. Paying payroll every week, for example. It should just be once a month. All that stuff should be immediately fixed, just immediately. And we hear a lot of excuses why you're not doing that, but there's absolutely no reason it can't be fixed immediately. So, and that will massively save you time. So that concept and that idea that Master Oliver's talking about is enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So as you go through that, you're always looking for ways to trim down your level of headaches and how frequently you have to pay attention to anything that you're doing, right? Because then it frees you time up to do enrollments and renewals and marketing, rather than getting stuck, behind the desk doing stuff that's otherwise fairly irrelevant. And Sal, I forget how we got off on that tangent. You had I think a different question that was related to that. Oh, we got there by doing all the payments on the first.
Right.
Right.
Yes, sir. So, and then you don't really talk about the BBL leadership and BBC and all that stuff until later on. You just talk about one thing. It's this, half of it, and then 247, and that's pretty much it. You don't talk about the other stuff.
I would say it a little differently. Is you pre-frame every intro, pre-frame every student that the reason they're enrolling in martial arts is to train to black belt and beyond. And that starts really in first contact, but certainly it starts in that first intro, right? Now, you're not talking about black belt club, leadership program, black belt program. You're not talking about programs. You're talking about the intent of the school, right? I mean, if I went to Georgetown, but if you went to Harvard or Georgetown, or in your case, Annapolis, you didn't go to Annapolis to hang out for the first year and see if you enjoyed it, right? To take it for 2 or 3 months, and if you enjoyed midterms, to go ahead to finals, right? In a case of a service academy, you're going to get your 4-year degree at one of the top schools in the world that leads to then a commitment in the military career and what those stepping stones are and so forth. All of that is going in, right? And so, the reason that somebody goes to a college is to go and, get into a program to get an MD or become a lawyer or, whatever it might be. But that's the same type of conversation you're having all along is, the purpose of enrolling in a martial arts school, of course, is to get to black belt and beyond. And that's true whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, or, more traditional arts. But, the purpose is to train to black belt and beyond. What we start with is a trial program. It's only about a quarter of the way to black belt, or, hell, if you're, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and it takes you 10 years, it's only a 10th of the way to black belt. But we start with a trial enrollment. It's only a portion of the way to get to black belt. And then what that lets us do is that lets us evaluate you, make sure that it's a good fit, and make sure that we approve you to train to black belt and beyond, right? See, it's all about goal setting and outcome. It's not about there's this program, then there's going to be this program, then there's going to be this program. Does that make sense, Sal? So yeah, I'm not going to be talking about there's a trial program, there's a black belt club, and there's a leadership. and we'll talk to you about these later, or you can choose between the three. What I am going to be doing is the objective is a train to black belt and beyond. And what we start with is a trial enrollment. It's only a quarter of the way, or it's only a fifth of the way, or whatever. Everybody good so far?
And make sure, pricing is one of the first things obviously you have to do, but also make sure that you get engaged right away in that enrollment folder and the character worksheets, because that is all of the pre-framing that has to be done, to get them to that next stage to keep them longer.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions before we move on? Has this been helpful for everyone so far? I will note that the first of the year is a perfect and natural time to jump up your tuition rates, right? So it's a perfect time to do that. For our more advanced members, we're running what we call a renewal blitz right now, which is the idea there's going to be a price increase the first of the year, and we can go ahead and finalize your leadership program, before the end of the month. And it's, you're going to save 20%, you're going to save 50%, you're going to save 5,000, whatever it might be. But the first of the year is a marvelous time, and it gives you a good excuse to do that. I will tell you two things: is no matter where you're at physically with the school, no matter what year or season it is, you can always find 12 good excuses for why now is not a good time to increase the prices. Oh, I can't increase the tuition right now. The economy is so bad because of COVID. I can't increase the rates right now because so many people are out of a job because of COVID. I can't increase the rates right now because, you don't know my city. It's different than every other city in every other 49 state. Every other, what is there? 2,500 counties or something. There's, the other 2,400 counties are different, but my city is different. Well, that's never the case, right? We don't have Ernie with us today, but Ernie and his gang, a lot of times, the first of our meetings that he listened to in the last few years was one where I was teasing them, and it was a true story of, they used to do a breakfast meeting. I forget what day it was, Friday mornings or Monday mornings or something. I went out there and I was doing some training with them at Squaw Valley, but then I met with all their staff on, I think it was a different time, a breakfast meeting. And I had said to Ernie, I said, for God's sake, you guys are in Silicon Valley, which is, if you don't know where that is, it's the strip between San Francisco and San Jose, California. It's, the highest income, highest expense area in the country probably right now, maybe short of or equal to Aspen, Colorado, and Manhattan, but probably worse. I think San Francisco is number one in the country on cost to live there. But I said, for God's sake, you're in Silicon Valley. Why are you charging half of what I'm charging in Denver, Colorado? And his answer was, oh, you don't understand. Everything is so expensive here that's the most they can afford. And my answer, donning my economist MBA hat, was, well, the reason that real estate is expensive here is it's too many dollars chasing too much of a limited resource, because they make a ton of money. So it's not that, things are more expensive here and therefore they can't afford it. It's that incomes are also highest in the country in this area. And by the way, your expenses are also as high as they get in the country. Certainly your lease space is. You should be charging commensurate with that. But I've had people tell me, you don't understand Malibu, California. Our students are too smart to pay that much. You don't understand Orange County, California. You don't understand Manhattan, as an excuse not to raise their rates. And we've also had people double their rates in Dodge City, Kansas, and Mankato, Minnesota. So, no matter where you're at or what's going on, there's always a good excuse. And the reality is the excuse is almost never right. Everybody so good so far? two things I'll take a side for administratively. We're going to do a buddy day, just like you were on last month, Sal. We're going to do a buddy day next Wednesday. We had a bad experience doing that 3 or 4 months ago. So anyone that you would like to invite, they do have to go to the registration link separately. What we did is we sent out the just the link to the meeting to the broader list, and we ended up with some smart alecks with screen sharing porn and profane rap music for a few minutes until we managed to kick them off. So anybody that you'd like to invite, what we do know is, my guess is something like 35% of schools in our business went out of business this year, and a whole bunch of other schools, including Master Smith, you mentioned some of their names earlier, some very smart people who I would have assumed would have done better, were down by as much as 50 or 60%. So anybody that you know who could use a shot in the arm, and again, there's no cost, no obligation. If you think they would be a good fit on our team, we'd love to have them if we agree with you. And if they just need a shot in the arm, it's just, we have a boatload of free content we'll give them that really should give them a jump start. That's going to be next Wednesday. So anybody who you'd like to invite, just send them the registration link and they can register themselves, then they'll get the access and so forth. The other thing, of course, is over the Christmas, New Year's holiday, we'll have a pretty truncated schedule. I'll get that out pretty quick. And Jan, I have promised you the rotating curriculum for next year. And it is still on my to-do list and it's still in the top 6. So I will get that done and get that out to everybody as well. Other than that, that was my administrative stuff. Questions on anything that we've talked about so far, or anything else? Matt Smith, what I was going to do today is spend a bit of time on that postcard also that Will had posted, but you guys kind of beat that to death at our earlier meeting for him. Is that a fair statement? Did you? Did you guys give him the advice I would give him? You're muted.
We did that and added even to it.
Okay.
Master Moody had some good suggestions on that we were able to pick up.
Yeah. Let me give everybody a quick thought on that. Is he had posted a postcard front and back in the member site. I'm not looking at it immediately.
You want Bob to do a share screen? That's what he
Yeah,
did.
Bob, are you able to do that? Can you pull that up quickly?
I think this would be instructional for everybody.
Sure, let me
Yeah.
see if I can find it.
And he did make some of your corrections that you said and posted and showed that one, but Matt was sharing the screen. So the one Bob is pulling out is probably even the one before he made your corrections. So it might be a good one to start from.
Yeah, Bob, as oh, you already got it. Okay. There you go. So this is maybe where you can get it where we can see the front and back. Is that possible?
We did it separately earlier. We did one or the other.
Okay. Well, this is.
That's the front. Sorry, that's the back. This is the front.
Yeah.
You want me to blow it up
Yeah.
or leave it like that?
Do one or
Yeah,
the other.
go ahead and pull the what you're calling the front up.
Yeah, the front had the most changes. The back was pretty good.
Yeah.
Master Moody just gave him a few things for the back.
Yeah. So for any ad you do, let's start with some basics. And for everybody who's heard a lot of this basic stuff, I apologize for repeating it. But let's start with some basics. Every ad you do, it doesn't matter whether it's a 30-second TV spot, it's an infomercial, it's a letter, it's a postcard, it's a Facebook ad, it's a Google pay-per-click ad, whatever. For every ad you do, always anchor in the most important piece is the headline. And I can modify that a little bit. Facebook behaves a little more different, not a little differently, in one way, in that the photo is statistically been shown to have a outsized proportion of the response. But always assume that anything you do, the most important criteria is the headline. If it's a letter or it's a postcard, the headline is what's called an ad for the ad. In other words, way more people will read the headline than ever read the body copy. And you want to have that ad for the ad that sparks their interest, that's immediately readable, that a great copywriter, I beat this one to death too, John E. Kennedy, I think, he said, you want to get inside the conversation that's already going on in their head. And so the more you can get the headline to feel like they respond with, wow, it sounds like you were listening to us at the kitchen sink, the better off you are, right? Now, in this case on this, the headline is unshakable confidence. And what I bitched about mostly in the group there on this was the artist that did it tried to make it pretty and screwed up the readability. So if you notice the design elements on this is there's, what would be called a watermark. The watermark shading where he's got his logo in the watermark, he's got kids doing a class in the watermark. If you see what I'm saying, that gray tone in back, well, it's a cool effect, but it takes away from the readability. Then there's a picture of 3 cute kids doing a punch. I like the picture, it's cute, but it's overlaid with the unshakable part, right? I wouldn't want, if I'm trying to get them to read the headline, I don't want a watermark and a full color photo, both distracting from it underneath the lettering. Does that make sense? So in practical terms, start 2021 with unshakable confidence. That plus his graphic with the, whatever that is, bonsai tree or crabapple tree or something, is essentially the headline. So the second rule, so rule number 1 is the most important element is the headline, which almost always goes left and center and top, right? So it's the first thing they're going to see. You don't want to distract from the headline. And the second thing is your school name is never the headline. And your school logo is never the headline. And in fact, most of us have school logos that are a distraction, not a support, right? So he could just have Crabapple Martial Arts Academy and it would beat the hell out of having the circle with the tree with the calligraphy there, or whatever is built into that, right? We have, you've probably seen on some of our stuff, the Mile High Karate logo, but it's just, it's a design face that says Mile High Karate. So it doesn't distract. So rule number 1 on all ads is the headline is the ad for the ad. Your school name logo is never the headline. You don't do anything to distract from the headline. So start 2021 with unshakable confidence. That's fine. I think Amanda said that, the version that he stole this from was a direct ripoff of one of the Mile High Karate ads. And by the way, it's not a ripoff. It's used with permission. It's fine with me. But I prefer it to say, parents, start your kids off the new year with unshakable confidence. Now it calls out the reason those cute little kids are there is it's aimed at parents for their kids to develop unshakable confidence. You see how that ties it together? And so if you think about parents, start your kids' new year off with unshakable confidence. If you move that so that the unshakable confidence wasn't on the kid's face, where it started, let's say, where the punch was, you got rid of the Crabapple Martial Arts logo, you got rid of all this stuff in blue back here, you'd be better off. The second thing you want to look at readability on this thing, I have trouble reading this blown up on my computer screen. I mean, I can read goals, skills, grades easily, but what's above it and what's below it is hard to read, right? But also the headline is a little hard to read because guess what? You've got unshakable against a light background with dark letters. You've got confidence as a reversal, essentially white letters, blue background. And you're trying to get them to read the headline, but you don't read unshakable confidence as one thing. You see how changing the way the font is done is unproductive. So I would get rid of the blue stripe, even though it looks nice, and make unshakable and confidence both in blue against a white background. I would get rid of the design element of the watermark. I would get rid of it running over the kids' pictures and move it down. We haven't even talked about the actual content much. It's just the design messed with readability. Has everybody seen what I'm talking about so far? And then if I want them to read, set positive goals and whatever it says there, proper use of skills, I certainly wouldn't do it with red background in a reversal, right? Now you could do something to offset it, but I mean, you could do a red trim around a box with black lettering and white background, or you could do dark blue lettering with background. But reversals have been proven to be difficult for people to read, but also going from normal to reversal and making that transition are difficult to read. Everybody seeing those points so far? Right?
I think we talked earlier about I think Master Moody recommended a 12-point size, and we looked at the different sizes, and 12-point was about the lowest you would want to be and still be able to read
And
it.
this is like 9-point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a little too much, a little too wordy, maybe.
No, I wouldn't say it's too wordy. I just can't read it, right?
I meant if you raised it to 12, we were
Yeah.
trying to figure, is that going to fit on the card?
Sure.
If you go to 12.
Well, or the other suggestion we had for Matt was instead of using the words here is just make these 3 testimonials.
That'd be a lot better.
topics.
Yeah. Yeah. A testimonial like on the other side, a picture of the kid, the name, and a testimonial about how it helped the child set goals, a testimonial about how it made them calmer and not more, violent or whatever, and a testimony about better. I mean, that'd be 10 times better. Not if it was in red background and white letters, because they'd never read it, but if they could read it, it'd be good. And we'll talk about the offer on the other side. Bob, why don't you go to the other side?
Yeah, I thought the testimonials on the other side were pretty good, except the name. I think you said to get the full name.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Generally, and see, on this side, the kind of watermark design, it's okay. It doesn't distract as much as on the other side. I still don't get the point of why you would want it. I mean,
it's an artistic expression. I tell you, the people that do all of this stuff, these companies, they always like that artistic look to it.
Yeah, and what I want with anything that goes out is for it to sell the deal, right? So all I want this to happen is I want the headline to get them to read the rest of it. I want the offer to get them excited, and I want the offer to be an immediate call to action for them to call me right now, right? That's what I want. I don't want them to say, oh, this is the most beautiful ad I've ever seen, and I'm going to frame it. I don't want them to be impressed. If I get a call saying, who's your artist? I want to hire them. No. I just want the phone to ring, right? So
Can I input here?
Yeah.
So the mark is just so people won't steal it, but are you really that worried about somebody stealing your martial arts ad? I mean, really, but that's why they do it.
Oh, the watermark?
Yeah, it's to prevent theft. A lot of artists and photographers do it. And a lot of the time artists that will do work for companies, like companies will hire an artist to do the ad or whatever. The artist will insist that they want their watermark on there. So just note.
Good point.
Yeah, which,
Thanks, Jen.
yeah, I mean, if that's their logic, it's completely moron based, right? Yeah, you're not worried, you're not worried about that at all. I mean, that kind of theft would be pure, copyright as well, but not that
We
you're
also
worried about
talked
it.
about the, underneath the telephone number, maybe the website, the link.
Yeah, well, let's stay on the testimonial, Matt Smith, because you mentioned that, and then let's talk about the offer and that.
Okay.
Here's the pluses on the testimonials. You've got a picture of the person giving the testimonial, presumably. You've got the name, and then you've got Daniel's mom, which presumably is the cute little blonde kid there that's old enough to take lessons, not the baby in the mom's arms, right? And the testimonial there is pretty good, right? I mean, it's all aglow. However, probably shouldn't use my usual example because it's a Richard Pryor example, but here's what you want when at all possible. You want before and after, right? Think of a weight loss commercial. I used to weigh 392 pounds. Now I weigh 112. And in 30 days or less, by eating this wonderful pizza and cookies and dessert and ice cream, I lost 322 pounds. All weight loss is sold before and after, right? Think about that. If at all possible, and sometimes it's not, but if at all possible, my child is ADD and now he's was going from F's to A's, or was horrible disciplinary problems. Now he or she is great. The more you can have before and after, the better off you are with a massive transformation, right? But again, I mean, this one's not bad. It doesn't have any before or after. It doesn't have outcomes, but it has, they're great, we love it, and there's all kinds of stuff we can do. But the thing you want to remember with testimonials is, think about yourself. If you see an ad and it has all kinds of glowing testimonials, but it has initials CL, from CL, what do you immediately assume? Oh, they made that crap up, right? In today's day and age of Amazon and so forth, is people are used to seeing reviews, and they're used to seeing 5-star reviews, and they're used to seeing feedback, but it has to look like it's coming from a real person. And in this kind of format, I would be better off with, it said, Christy Logue, Daniel's mom, RN at Premier Hospital, Bridgewater, Georgia, right? See, the more detail I can give, short of, getting ridiculous on privacy, I'm not going to put their home phone number on. Although I've seen people, well, by the way, I've seen ads where they do that. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. Now, what they do in practical terms is they set up a voicemail number and they let Christy, record a thing. They don't actually give them their number. But the more you can have real identifiers that this is a real human being, the better, right? One was, so glad I came across a Facebook ad for this dojo. Well, that statement isn't particularly useful, right? It could be, I'm so glad I enrolled in this school. But referencing back a Facebook ad when you're mailing somebody a postcard doesn't add anything. It's been a blessing in disguise for my 2 kids. I love the discipline and growth that is coming from them joining. That's great. And then it says, we love our CMAA family. Well, what the hell is CMAA?
Crabapple martial arts, obviously.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I know that and you know that. They don't know that, right? See, so and by the way, I always banned our staff from using, what do you call that? It's not an abbreviation. It's a
mnemonic.
Mnemonic, yeah. Like the military is horrible about that. Everything's initials that stand for something. A lot of the people are saying it don't. But see, in that, we love crabapple martial arts. That'd be great. Crabapple martial arts has been great for our family. That'd be fine. But we love our CMAA. Just they go, well, what are they talking about there? Is that some kind of technique? Is that a class? You know, that they're not going to make the jump to say, oh, they're talking about crab apple martial arts. Crab apple is one word. Okay, martial arts. Oh, academy. Crab. They're not going to do that. Does that make sense? Questions on that so far? Is that all making sense? Then you get the offer, and you know it's kind of the standard 2 weeks free in a uniform, right? But it says in person, virtual. In today's day and age, for a while, I would tend to be more explicit about that. You know, remote learning, virtual video classes, social distance outdoor classes, social distance in-person classes, you know, CDC compliant. I would tend to be more explicit with that for a while. My guess is we have to do that until next summer, right? More or less. So I don't think that just in-person and virtual with a red background with yellow letters is adequate for that purpose. You know, and in fact, I've been picking on a lot of the ads recently about put the kids in masks if they're together. Now, you know, these kind of obviously look like they're a family, and that would be kind of silly. And, you know, I'm not sure there's much you need to do on that one. But then we have the offer. And you'll see a lot of the Mile High Karate ads. It'll like be, you know, free 2 weeks of martial arts classes, you know, $98 value, free official black belt uniform, $49 value, free semi-private class with a black belt instructor, free personal evaluation, right? It'll like break down the intro process, but it'll be free, 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 free. That makes it a little bit more powerful, right? But there's also kind of a disconnect of, I want to take advantage of your offer. What do I do? And then it's got kind of the generic down there, the address and phone number. I always make it more explicit whenever possible. To take advantage of our $249 free offer, call Renee now at 770-645-0930 to schedule your first free class, and or we're happy to answer any other questions you may have. You see how that tells them to pick up the phone, to call, who they're going to talk to, what they're going, you know, what the purpose of the call is. Does that make sense? So the more you can direct them, and again, there's a great copywriter. His name's John Carlton. You've probably seen a bunch of his ads because he. But what he would always do is, he said, picture your prospect as a somnambulant sloth sitting on the couch, slumped over watching TV with the remote, and they get up, you know, once every 2 hours to get a new beer and to hit the restroom. And you're trying to get them to take action, right? And it's a good visual because it's extremely difficult for people who are interested, even who thinks it's a good idea, to actually pick up the phone and call you. Does that make sense for everybody? So you always have to be very explicit, you know, and, you know, sometimes you can put hours, you know, between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., call 770-645-0930 to talk to our instructor, Renee, and she'd be happy to answer any questions and schedule your first free class, you know, for your son or daughter. Makes it very, 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 very explicit. Questions so far, or Master Smith, anything that you and Master Moody hit earlier that I haven't touched upon?
I guess, other than just the website.
And Jan, you were there earlier. Anything else?
Just the website, and that was it, I think.
Yeah, the website. That you could have an argument about, right? And by the way, I could argue this either way and be just as comfortable. One argument is, call Renee now at the phone number, or register online and give them the website, right? If I have my choice of them picking up the phone and calling me or going to the website, which do I want them to do?
Yeah, call.
Yeah. There, everybody understand that? I mean, and what's the factor? Visit my website, call me. Is it, I would 50% prefer them to call me? What do you guys think?
100%. You
I
want to
would
call.
Yeah, I would say it's 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 50 to 1, right? That I want them to pick up the phone and call me. In fact, the only reason I'm going to call them, direct them to the website is to get them to give me a phone number and try to get them to call me and call them if they don't call me, right?
Or to give them,
Everybody understand?
or if that doesn't, from what they've seen, that doesn't give them enough gusto to call you, maybe they need a little more selling. And so if they visit the website, if you have an interactive website that allows them to book the appointment, have the schedule there, that kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah, not the full class schedule.
No, I
Yeah,
meant
but-
to schedule an intro.
yeah.
Right. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to the offer, all the way back to the beginning of the meeting, is the offer, think of it as a grid, is the longer the offer, the more of a little bit of a barrier it puts to them converting to the second lesson. The shorter the offer, the easier it is to just naturally convert. So if the offer was, come in for one free lesson for $50, you'd probably have everybody convert and they convert the first lesson. The more expensive the offer, the higher the conversion rate's going to be. A paid offer in that sense is better than a free offer. However, a free offer often, not always, will have a better response, right? So you've got to balance free versus paid, and you've got to balance how long the offer is. So if I'm doing an offer in Groupon, they tend to be longer offers. If I'm doing a charitable fundraiser where they are paying for it, they tend to be longer offers. But that puts even more burden on me, make sure I'm giving them the drop-down discount and converting it. In where I drive on Matt Smith, where I was going with that, is that's kind of the same thing. If I sent them a 20-page sales letter in a FedEx envelope with a $100 bill at the top, well, I'm not going to take that mail piece. Let's say after that I have sent them 5 different mail pieces. I'm not going to take that mail piece and drive them to a website, right? What unless it's some real special deal, what I'm going to do is take that offer and drive them directly to a phone number, right? Now, in this case, it's a postcard. There's not all that much information on it. I don't know. I don't have the rest of the information. Is this going to a cold list? Is it going to a warm list? Is it going to people who've been into an intro before? Is it going to every door direct? I mean, I don't think he told us that. But
He did on the
It's
meeting.
targeted list.
a targeted list. So it's a cold list, but it's targeted.
He was sending it to 9,000 something.
There you go. So then in that case, I'm much more likely to give them alternative response mechanisms, right? Choice number 1, call Renee right now to schedule an appointment. Choice number 2, watch our free introductory video about the program and what your experience is going to be like. It's located at driving them to a website. I'm going to be more likely to give them multiple response options.
Yeah,
So that
and
answered
but
that question.
The target was a family, because obviously your postcard has to match your targeted mailing. So, if you're trying to attract adults or kids or families or, that type of thing, make sure the ad is in that format.
Well, okay, yeah, you raised another good point. If I was doing a kids ad and now I sent them to a website that has sexy blonde bare midriff wearing boxing gloves as a photo for a fitness kickboxing program, then some rough and tumble guy with tattoos down both arms with no shirt and maybe in a Speedo for MMA classes, and then 3 little cute kids over on the side, that's going to screw up the flow. It's going to screw up the flow if I bought a pay-per-click ad and drove them to a landing page, but it's going to screw up the flow if I sent a postcard to parents of kids, let them go to a website that then was incongruent with what I sent them. Does that make sense? So one of the things, like Ron with Premiere, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but one of the things that Barry used to do that was, I always thought was just completely backwards, was all of the ads that I saw were, cute woman, boxing gloves, fitness kickboxing, guy with no shirt, adult lessons, cute kids. And what happens is when you're doing 3 completely separate and distinct things, one of them turns off the others, right? I mean, sending an ad to 25-year-old men for hardcore MMA, and then also having on the same ad 7-year-old kids and women wearing pink boxing gloves doing cardio kickboxing screws up the response rate for all 3. That makes sense? So always you want it to be targeted, and then where you take them, you want that to be congruent with where you're taking them. So far, so good? Master Smith, Master Moody, anything to add to that? I mean, we pretty thoroughly.
Well, yeah, I would add a
read
little
out the
comment on the
brochure.
mail piece as far as the website. So the flip side for me on putting the website on there, I personally would always put the website on there, because the issue would be if Matt sends this out, somebody sees the phone number and they look him up, the likely lookup isn't going to be Crabapple Martial Arts, and they don't have anything to type in to look him up. They're going to search for karate in a zip code, or karate near me, or karate. So he's got to go to karate website. I already know he's #1 position organically because they go to Karate Builder's website, but there's also going to be the other guys. So he's then going to be like a Yellow Pages result, rather than them looking him up directly and directly getting his website so that they can find out what to do. And you're very right. And we talked about this in the meeting. He could have a URL, Crabapple Martial Arts /kids, if it's specifically a kids ad. Then also he could track, and I didn't mention
Or
this.
you could have crabapplekids.com.
Yeah. He could do another URL, or he could just have a subdomain, or a separate /kids would be easy. And then we could also track how many came from the card, which would be another way to do tracking from the website. But then people could very easily find him, rather than sending him if they do a web search, they're going to be sent to the wolves, almost like if at this point they went into the Yellow Pages. Well, you would never want them to do that. That'd be crazy. So I'd rather direct them to the right funnel.
Who are old enough, that used to be one of the things that when you're a big Yellow Page advertisers, they tried to pitch you with, is I have seen, I don't know how many times over the years, let's say a plumber, and they're driving along and they've got the name of the business, and it's a magnetic thing that says, look us up in the Yellow Pages.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
That's just the dumbest shit ever, right? I mean, right. Call us at this number. So you're absolutely right, Master Moody, is if you don't tell them, they're going to go martial arts lessons, Alpharetta, Georgia.
Well, the other crazy,
everybody.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but the other crazy thing, just for thoroughness, was Perillo was doing those websites, those full contact marketing websites where they were having everybody pay online. And that generally on a website offer doesn't work as well for our type of business. But what they were telling people to do was when people would call you, they were saying, well, don't have them set an appointment, have them go back to the website and pay on the website because then their show rate will be better, which is a true statement if they actually went to the website and did pay and then they would show up. But it was a totally idiotic thing to do. But then that's how that company made their money. I'm not sure if everybody's following the process, but we know what we're talking about here.
He kept the money when they paid. Like it'd be like tell him to go Google Groupon and go buy a Groupon.
Yeah, exactly.
to come
And in fact, unfortunately, a couple other people we know were promoting that kind of idea, and it was idiotic. You know, if they're a bird in the hand, they're in front of you. We want them to be in front of us. So the way to do this would be the phone number in big letter or big font like this, but underneath is the website. So it's very easy to find. If you want to get looked up, website, crabapplemartialarts.com, boom. I don't have to go search for karate. If I want to look you up, I find you. But the phone number is, and it says on the other side, call now, and it really directs you to direct them the way you want them to go if they decide to look you up. And you don't see his other version of this has call now in big letters. Oh, it does here, but it's more the other version.
This was his first version. He did make the changes that you said that was a lot better. And then we tweaked some more things for him.
But the lesson for everybody here, so everybody should be getting the principles Master Oliver's talking about. I hope everybody's starting to learn this in terms of don't think about, oh, we're looking at Matt's ad and how you fix Matt's ad and it doesn't apply to you. All these things apply to you when you're doing marketing design. Think about how the customer is going to be looking through this and then where you want them to go and what your objective is. Your objective is, you know, I help people with websites a lot, but we want them to call you. We want them to call you. We don't really want them to fill out a form, but that's your secondary mechanism.
Or if they fill out the form, after they fill out the form, we want them to call you.
Yeah, we want them to call you immediately, and we want you to call them immediately. So we've got to think through the marketing process and then the sales process from there. But that relates to how this design is done. And so hopefully everybody's getting these principles.
And go back to what, go ahead.
Yeah, the only two things I would add in there is that when you're doing the ad, just make sure it's targeted to your market that you want to reach. And number one, and then number two is make sure that your list that your ads only be as good as the list that you send it to. So it has to be a combination of those two things. And you get better at doing this for your area if you keep good stats. What I do I know a lot of members, they don't keep stats. I'll say, well, how did that ad pull for you? And they go, well, I don't remember. I don't think it did too well. You know, did too well or did well. Neither one of them is helpful as much as, well, we got this many leads, this many appointments, this many enrollments. So make sure you're keeping those stats. And I would ask Bob if he could show everybody where the done for you ads and where to go on our member site.
Yeah, well, let's finish the thought really quickly here, Massman. Yeah, Bob, show them how to get there before we ring off 3 minutes ago. Two things going back in Massman. Let's unpack the statement you made there, going back to some of the dumbassery that Burrell and others were doing in the past. Is it a true statement that if somebody has already paid $100 for the intro, that they're more likely to show up for the intro they already paid for? Yes, undeniably that's true. It's also a true statement that we oftentimes revert to free because we get more people who respond for that than they do you see, I mean, my ideal offer would be, I'm charging $297 a month. I say, come in and take a month for $297. Well, I've already pre-qualified them on the tuition rate. They've already paid $297. You know, of course, I'm going to get a higher conversion rate from intro to enrollment. The question is, am I going to get many intros, right? The second thing to unpack what he said is if you're doing a paid offer, like Sal, you mentioned the $99 offer, is I would always like to, whenever possible, get the money at the first contact, and sending them to a website to get them to pay on the website is sometimes it works fine, sometimes it doesn't work as well. Even if you're sending them to a website to get them to pay for a paid offer, we tend to do a two-step where there's a free reason to opt in, and then there's a paid offer that they could take advantage of if they want to, right? But the other element of that is if you're doing a paid offer, you know, if they call you or you call them, there's nothing that keeps you from getting the credit card right then. And the you know, the introductory program is going to be 8 lessons for $99. If you want to, I can go ahead and process that for you, and we can have the uniform and everything waiting for you when you get here. Would you rather do that on a Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover? What's the best way to do that for you?
Well,
Uh,
and Master Oliver, sorry to interrupt you. It might be important to remember too for everybody. That's to improve show rates.
Yeah.
It's not to do sales. The sales process should still be on their first or second lesson.
Right.
You know, you're not trying to sell $49 programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's going to get rich having their websites sell their $89 programs and then sit back and roll in the dough. That's only
it's
to
gonna
improve
cost
show
you.
rates. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where people go wrong with that, right? Is, you know, they try to get some offer where they're going to make money on the offer, and they don't realize that it's costing them more to sell an $80 program than they're, you know, getting in the $80. And it's
Yes, sir.
irrelevant anyway, because what we're concerned about is the lifetime value of the enrollment, which hopefully is $6,000-7,000.
Bob, can Bob show them where a couple of these
Yeah.
bits of information are? So everybody could take a look at.
Yeah,
This
so this is a
this
quick
is our
start.
quick start.
Quick Start member site. And over here on the right, underneath the links, there's the print on demand. Let me click on that and let it load up. Come on. Did my screen change?
Yep.
Okay.
There.
And these are all of the ads. These are downloadable. Let me click on, let's say, ad cards, show you how this kind of looks. So we'll just pick the first one. It does have a price here. You can have, it's linked to a printing company called Colorworks, although you don't have to use them. So if we click on the blue banner.
You're welcome to if you want. I mean,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
but
Right.
you don't certainly are not obligated to.
Do you know, definitely you can do some comparison shopping, but at least you can still get your piece here.
But the art files, if you, so I just went ahead and clicked on the blue banner, and then it'll bring up the ad. And as you scroll down, you'll see where it allows you to download the art files to your PC or to your Mac. And these would be fully editable, so you can do with whatever you want. Obviously, InDesign for the Mac.
There's a lot of specialty ads in here, you know, like holidays, Christmas, you know, New Year's, all that kind of stuff.
Yep, door hangers, flyers, guest passes, postcards, posters, rack cards. Obviously, everybody wants to make sure they're doing rack cards.
Yeah, and I'll give you one disclaimer on these, is they don't have testimonials on them.
Or CDC.
No. Yeah, none of them were designed in the age of coronavirus. So a lot of this is, you know, it gives you an underlying, you know, clip art to work with, and a preset design. Some of it's really good, some of them's okay. You know, I could go through and beat to death any of these in here too. But most of when we set this up, I unlike what a lot of people do, but I didn't feel comfortable doing, is I didn't want to take somebody else's testimonials and genericize it or turn it into XYZ Martial Arts School is the greatest ever, when it's somebody that lives in New York taking BJJ for an ad for somebody who's in Georgia, you know, teaching Taekwondo. So all of these, whenever possible, you can use this as the base, but when and if you can, add testimonials, turn the headline into a testimonial, turn the body copy into a testimonial, and identify a
And
real
our
person.
students and parents love seeing their picture. I mean, when I would do it, I would always tell the parent that I was going to do it to make sure it was okay.
Yeah.
Even though we have permission from their signing the contract that we can use it in our ads, but I would usually tell them, and then they would be excited to be able to send it to their friends to show that, here's Tommy, they used him on one of their ads, and so it's a good selling tool.
On that note, if there's any other last questions, since we're 10 minutes over our timeline, feel free to jump in and ask. And if there's not, we'll call
And
it a
everybody,
day.
go browse around. That Quick Start site has a lot of information. We have people that have been with us sometimes for 6 months, and we're talking about something. They go, "Oh, I didn't know that was there." So go into that Quick Start, go through and scroll around and see what all's there. There's a lot of valuable information in there that you guys can use.
And I'll remind everybody of Buddy Day next week. And on that note, going once, going twice. Any questions? No? Okay, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
Have a good day. See you.
Oh, Bob
Yes, sir.
Smith. Remind me in the future, we can just live cast this in the group and then we don't have to mess with the recording because it's automatically there. I forgot yet again today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah, because then it'll just live cast like we do the other live cast stuff, but it'll be automatically in the